More than a year ago, a landscape-changing decision came down from the nation's highest court. It's called the McGirt decision, named after the suspect who brought the case to the U.S. Supreme Court. The ruling means Oklahoma's tribes are now shouldering a big responsibility of prosecuting many crimes involving tribal members. Since July of 2020, that responsibility has only grown. Two other cases have reinforced it, expanding the ruling to include the Chickasaw and Cherokee nations. As the tribes take over jurisdiction, News is going in depth on what the judicial system looks like inside the tribal courtrooms. 2 News Oklahoma senior reporter Sharon Phillips has been researching and joins us with an in-depth look at one tribe's court system.
Karen, I recently sat down with a Cherokee Nation judge to see what the tribe is doing to handle the new influx of cases. Now, the Cherokee Nation tells me they've earmarked nearly $30 million to spend during this fiscal year. With that money, they've hired more marshals, judges, prosecutors, public defenders, and court staff. Judge Luke Bartow is a tribal court judge with the Cherokee Nation. He says it took 113 years to give back to the tribes what was rightfully theirs. The landmark Supreme Court ruling more than a year ago led to hundreds of cases being dismissed in Oklahoma courts, some to be retried by the federal government or tribal courts. It also meant crimes committed after the ruling would now be handled by either the tribes or the feds.
So if a non-native has a domestic violence case that's charged against a native, we can take jurisdiction over that case.
But are the tribes equipped to handle all the new cases they are receiving? Judge Bartow says they are.
The AG's office has hired, I believe, 8 new prosecutors. The majority of those came from district attorney's offices within the state that were already working a lot of the cases that the state was dismissing.
He says they have created a new delinquent court division in Muskogee, are in the process of completing a new courthouse in Jay, and are considering plans for a new criminal justice center in Tahlequah, which may include a new marshal service building. He says all of that will help them handle the some 2,600 cases filed since March. But the tribes aren't the only ones prosecuting crimes. The Major Crimes Act grants the U.S. government jurisdiction over certain crimes on Indian land. So while the tribes can handle some violent crimes, the Cherokee Nation's AG says the feds tend to handle the more serious ones.
It's my understanding that the feds are taking on as many cases as they can at this point, and they are geared more towards the violent felonies. Whether it be murders, manslaughter, rape, things like that.
So when a crime is committed, Judge Bartow says they are prepared. Within their 14-county jurisdiction, they have cross-deputized other agencies as Cherokee Nation marshals, as well as contracting with county detention facilities to house inmates. Judge Bartow says the Cherokee Tribal Council has amended much of their criminal code to match the state's. For example, if the state has first and second degree burglary charges, the tribe does as well.
That way, law enforcement, they don't have to learn multiple codes. So like Tulsa County, who our marshals are cross-deputized with, they're also cross-deputized with Muskogee Creek Nation.
After an initial appearance, a tribal judge will decide whether a suspect goes to trial unless there is a plea agreement. If they do go to a trial, I asked Judge Bartow if the tribal courts use a jury or just a judge.
There's both options. If they want a jury trial, they'll be put on a jury docket, and kind of the same process as state court.
Judge Bartow says the process for selecting a jury is also similar to the state system.
It matches pretty close. We do have 12-person juries, so we'll pick 6 plus 2 alternates, and they'll go through the same voir dire process as in state court and picking them.
He says the pool in general comes from the Cherokee Nation's registrar's office, unless a non-native is involved.
When we call a jury, it won't just be from the tribal registrar. It'll have to be non-natives included in the jury pool so that it'll truly be a jury of their peers.
If the jury returns a conviction, the Major Crimes Act limits tribes to 3-year sentences for criminal convictions, with a maximum of 9 years for multiple charges. That's another reason the more violent crimes are handled by the federal government, since they can impose longer sentences. And you know, Karen, if the tribes hope to increase their sentencing authority, Congress will have to act.
Now, once they're sentenced, where do they have to go to serve their time?
Well, the tribes have actually contracted with county detention centers all over to house those inmates.
And then what about the appeals process? Is that similar to the states?
No, actually it's not. If someone appeals, it goes directly to the nation's Supreme Court, so it's a little bit different.